Thank you. Flag salutation by Dr. Pawan, Madhusudan, Secretary. Or to you, Dr.
Flag salutation. We, the members of Indian Medical Association, stand here to salute the national flag. Its honor and glory shall be our light and strength, and its course shall be our course. We pledge our allegiance to it, and realizing the responsibilities as the accredited members of this national organization, we swear we will dedicate everything in our power to see it fly high in the comity of nations. Jai Hind, Jai IMA.
Thank you. Respected State Joint Secretary, Dr. Jain Chimman, our Secretary, Dr. Pawan Madhusudan, Treasurer, Dr. Joseph Yar, past State President, Dr. Govindagudisa, today's faculty, Dr. Harun Manadath Pillay, and today's chairperson, Dr. Sam Peche, seniors and senior IMA leaders, my dear colleagues, and guests from other branches. A warm evening and welcome to and scientific session on understand how male and female brains works to help marital harmony. We could conduct the long-awaited vaccination program for our family members in the last Saturday at Town Hall Thrissur, though we are forced to conduct it with a very short notice of just 2 hours. As the members' family lists were ready long back and could send messages, we could conduct it in association with KGMO Thrissur, though some missed it because of the short notice. I take this opportunity to thank KGMO Thrissur for their cooperation. Our colleagues are facing lots of problems while conducting vaccination camps, especially in government sector, even being abused, held as captives, and even physically attacked. Yesterday, at Veliyankode of Ponnani Taluk, one young colleague is physically assaulted by and was taken to hospital in an unconscious condition. KGMO Malappuram stepped into action and taken an immediate action, and today declared boycotting of the vaccination camps. Yesterday, it is learned that vaccination and antigen testing were successfully boycotted by the KGMO, and we salute them for their quick response. As we all know, we are getting an increased surge in COVID-19 cases since last few days. Even the fully vaccinated colleagues are getting infected, and had a call from one of our colleagues today who became positive. Even one of our past state presidents is in ventilator since last 10 days after COVID infection. I request you all not to lose our guard on our own safety. We have conducted Doctors' Day on a hybrid meeting and could honor 5 of our senior distinguished members and 4 members of the last year who could not be honored physically as the COVID situation didn't allow us to do so on a hybrid meeting. That's all. Now I invite Dr. Jain Chimman, State Joint Secretary, for his address. For you, Dr. Jain Chimman.
Thank you, Joy sir. Respected President, senior leaders, esteemed guest faculty, and my dear friends. Our State Secretary was to address us today is busy on his channel discussion, so I am taking over as Joint Secretary. At the outset, let me congratulate Thrissur branch for coming out very apt discussions and very apt CMEs. Already our President has outlined what is happening in our profession and also has warned us to not lose our guard, because definitely we are all at risk. Even though vaccinated, we are all at risk of getting infected. So we should be definitely on guard. We should not let our guard down. With those words, I am sure we are all eager to and to hear an answer about the $1 million question. So what is the difference? Why we can't understand females, or why the females can't understand very simple males? So hopefully by the end of this session, that $1 million question will be answered. Already almost more than 90 persons have already logged in. All are eager to learn the question answers. So I'm not taking much time. Definitely, the next week we are having our managing committee of all the schemes within the 8th, and the coming week will be the managing committee meetings, and then there will be the working committee coming up. So state is functioning, though during COVID time, state is functioning as usual, and IMA has been interfering or actually advising the government on what to do and what not to do. So let us be on guard, and wishing all the CME all success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jain Chinna, for your address. I request all of you to join with your spouses, because this is not a pure academical session. This is a family session, moreover. Now I invite Dr. Pawan Mansudan, our secretary, to have the minutes and activity report. Over to you, Dr. Pawan.
I hope my slides are visible.
Yeah, full screen.
So once again, welcoming all to the general body of IMA THRISSUR. Now let me present the minutes and activities of the previous month. Last month, we conducted the general body on 30th of June, Wednesday, on Zoom. Dr. Joy Manjula presided the meeting, and State Secretary Dr. P. Govikumar addressed the gathering. Dr. Pawan, Secretary, presented the minutes of the previous month, and it was passed in the general body. Then we had Dr. Sri Kumar Vasudevan, Chairman of PP Scheme and IMA of IMA Kerala State, and convener of the Ethics Committee of the National IMA. He spoke on the hospital attacks and managing the hostile terrain. This was followed by a discussion and was participated by a lot of members from the state IMA as well. Then these are the pictures of the Doctors' Day celebration we had at IMA on Thursday, 1st of July. That was a hybrid meeting. We had participants in the Zoom, and we had participants which attended the meeting directly. And Dr. Sharmila, the convener of CGP, welcomed the gathering. Meeting was presided by Dr. Joy Manjula. Chief guest was Ms. Sri P. Balayendran, the MLA of Thrissur, and Dr. V. Govindangutti, our past state president. He introduced the chief guest, and we had Dr. P. Gopikumar, state secretary, as guest of honor, and chief guests were honored by our senior doctors. And our senior doctors, Dr. Leelama Abraham, Dr. T.T. Paul, Dr. S.M. Balagopal, Dr. N. Vishwanathan, Dr. T.P. Anthony, Dr. M.N.G. Nair, Dr. Ramachandran, Dr. Anandam, Dr. C.V. Andrews, they all were honored in the meeting. And it was followed by a cultural program led by Dr. J.S. Nivin and Dr. Ravindra Verma. These are the pictures. Then there was a state working committee meeting on 11th, and that was attended by a president, myself, secretary, and our state working committee member, Dr. C.V. Andrews. Then we had an executive committee meeting on 13th of Tuesday. It was an online meeting, and presented the minutes of the previous executive meeting. It was passed in the during the meeting. Then another major event last month was the World Plastic Surgery Day Observance 2021. It was held in association with the Allied Mission Hospital, Thrissur. They have the Sushruta Institute of Plastics and Reconstructive Surgery Unit. So the meeting was organized along with them. These are the pictures. And on the day, We also honored our senior member and one of the senior plastic surgeons in Thrissur, Professor Dr. M.V. Raman, for his contributions in the field. And Dr. M.V. Raman thanked the colleagues in his return speech, and Dr. Unni Baby, he introduced the faculties who presented, who led the academic session during the meeting. The session was taken by Dr. Joshit and Dr. Ajay from, and also by Dr. Vinu Roy from Elite Plastic Surgery Department, and that was followed by a healthy discussion among the participants. Then we had the IMA CGP meeting, which was held in association with the TOGS and IAP Thrissur. The CMV was on Zika virus outbreak. It was held on 21st of August. And Dr. Nishi Roshni, the president of TOGS, welcomed the gathering. Chief guest was Dr. P. Gopikumar. And we had Dr. Sudhiraj, assistant professor of community medicine at GMC Thrissur. He spoke on the Zika virus epidemiology. And Dr. Professor K.K. Purushothaman sir, the HOD of pediatrics at MES College. He presented the pediatric side of Zika virus. And TOGS secretary, Dr. Pramila Menon. She introduced Dr. Deepthi, consultant from Westford Hospital, who presented the gynec side of Zika virus. Dr. Reddy Shantakumar, the president of IAP, thanked the gathering. Then this was one of the most awaited events, the vaccination camp for our doctors and our families. The camp was organized in association with KGMOA. It was organized in a very short notice following an emergency meeting at the DMO on that day morning, and we could participate. We could vaccinate about 250 people in the camp who came with their, the members who came along with their families, and they were benefited out of the vaccination camp. And also DMO has assured to conduct vaccination for any pending members. They can take vaccination in their own, the health centers in their own areas. So these are the major activities for the last month. Thanking everyone who cooperated with the programs for the previous month. And can the minutes be passed?
Can the minutes be passed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Screen sharing disabled. Disable the screen. Okay. Now let us move on to the scientific session.
President, രണ്ട് correction വേണം minutes-ല്. Hello.
പറഞ്ഞോളൂ, കേൾക്കാം.
ഒന്ന്, ഓണർ ചെയ്ത ഡിഗ്നിറ്ററീസിലെ ഡോക്ടർമാരുടെ പേര് ഡോക്ടർ ടി.പി. ആന്റണി മിസ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നു. നമ്പർ 1. നമ്പർ 2, ഈ കോളേജ് ഓഫ് GPയും ടൊഗാസും കൂടി നടത്തിയ സിക്കായുടെ മീറ്റിംഗ് 21 ജൂലൈ ആണ്, പക്ഷെ വായിച്ചത് 21 ഓഗസ്റ്റ് എന്നാണ്. കേൾക്കാമോ?
മീറ്റിംഗ് 21 ജൂലൈ ആണ്, അത് മിസ്റ്റേക്ക് പറ്റിയതാണ്. പിന്നെ ഡോക്ടർ ടി.പി. ആന്റണി സാറിന്റെ പേര് ഓൾറെഡി വായിച്ചിരുന്നു.
അത് വായിച്ചിരുന്നു, ഞാനും കേട്ടു.
അല്ല, ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ചേർക്കണം എന്ന് പറയാം, അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ.
Thank you. Now we will move on to the scientific session. I hope Dr. Haroon is there on the. Yes, Dr. Haroon.
Yes, I am here, Joy. I am here.
Okay. Now I invite our Secretary, Dr. Pawan Mudushiran, for the introduction of the chair and to invite him for chairing the session.
So let me take this opportunity to invite the chair of the scientific session today, and also the main faculty for today's event. So let me introduce Dr. Sam, who is chairing the session, who did his MBBS from Medical College Thrissur and MD Psychiatry from NIMHANS Bangalore, and working as a consultant psychiatrist at Elite Mission Hospital for the past 11 years. He has done fellowship in sexology, and he is trained in sexual medicine at Hungary by European Society for Sexual Medicine. and he's also doing online consultation as well. So I welcome Dr. Sam PJ to this meeting. Welcome, Dr. Sam.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, Sam, you may take over.
Okay. My video has been stopped. Could you please?
Wait. No, we have not stopped your video. Maybe you can start it by yourself. Please try.
It's saying that you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. Whatever it is. Okay. Anyway, I am audible, so no problem.
Yeah, Sam, you can start now.
Yeah. Good evening to everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank the office bearers of Thrissur IMA, Dr. Joy sir and Dr. Pan, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this today's scientific session. So as a chairperson, my duty is to introduce the topic and speak it to you. As all of you know, a marital conflict or marital disharmony is a very relevant and important topic. And understanding the differences between the brains of men and women is more interesting. And we will discuss today whether the understanding these brain differences can help us handle or reduce the marital disharmony. So talk to you about this topic, we have an eminent speaker, Dr. Harun Manadpili. He has done his MBBS from Sri Krishna Medical College, Muzaffarpur, Bihar. Then he did his MCH in neurosurgery from Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute. He holds an DNB in neurosurgery. He has FRCS both in general surgery and neurosurgery from UK. He also has a postgraduate diploma in hospital administration from Apollo Medvarsity. He has worked in half a dozen countries, so he has the experience from a lot of places. And he was awarded awarded the SLJ title by the Sultan of Brunei for his personal professional experience. He has also worked for a month in Peru, training the local neurosurgeons as an appointed delegate by the Foundation of International Foundation for Neurosurgeons, United States of America. So with this introduction, I'm handing over to Dr. Haroon to enlighten us on this topic, and we will have a discussion after the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. I would like to thank the President, Dr. Joy Manila, my dear friend, and the members of IMA THRISSUR for allowing me to address you. At the outset, let me tell you one thing. My talk on male and female brain differences comes from three sources. One,
your
am I
video
audible?
is not available. Audible, but your video is not seen.
My video is on.
Enable your video.
Maybe I can see myself.
But we cannot see you.
Sir,
Shall I switch off the video and switch on again?
Okay. Switch on. Okay. No. You carry on.
Yeah, my video is switched on.
Now it's okay.
Okay. So my information comes from three sources. One, some of the books I have read about this topic. Number two, from various people I have observed in my life. And finally, from my personal experience of 35 years of married life. I'm sure all of you will have experiences where you wonder in the middle of the night, why my partner doesn't understand what I'm saying. This is not unique to any of you. This is a common problem between men and women. Why is this happening? As a neurosurgeon, I have operated on both male and female brain of various cultures, various citizens. Macroscopically, I can't find any gross difference. But behavior-wise, there is a significant difference. Now, macroscopically also, if you study it very carefully, there's a little difference. Female brain is 11% smaller than male brain. Now, don't take offense. That is only because female body is 11% smaller than male body. So they have a proportionate brain for their body structure. Good news for women is that the gray matter is more developed in women. So women are supposed to be more intelligent than men. So that is good news. Now, if you look at the brain, you find that female brain has got certain parts of the brain much more developed than male brain. That is the prefrontal lobe, the insula, the orbitofrontal cortex, the superior temporal lobe. These are areas which are part of the limbic system and also parts for emotions, diplomacy, judgment, social behavior. So these are all much more developed in female brain as compared to male brain. But for male brain, the parts which are a little more dominant is the parietal lobes, which are mainly responsible for construction, mathematical analysis, visuospatial orientation. So this difference is one basic difference. The other difference is the speech areas. Speech and language areas are much more developed in women as compared to men. Now, having said that, I have to tell you that both male and female brain are equal. One is not superior or inferior to the other. They are equal, but not identical. It's like comparing 1 kilo of orange to 1 kilo of apple. They are both 1 kilo, they are both equal. But if you look at the texture, the color, the nutrition, the taste, the way you eat it, it's all different. They don't match. But they are essential. Both of them are essential for our health. So men need women and women need men. But more important, men need to understand women and women need to understand men. The problem what happens is that most often a man thinks that only his partner, his female partner is abnormal in his mind. And a woman thinks his male partner is abnormal in her mind. The man doesn't realize that the way a woman behaves is a general behavior of all female brain. And the way a man behaves is a general behavior of all male brain. They have no control over it. Now, why is this happening? This is happening because of the evolutionary process. If you look at human beings, the Homo sapiens had been around for nearly 200,000 years. Now, all these 200,000 years, there had been a specific role designated for men and women. The specific role of men over the years, until very recently, until the last 300, 400 years, had been hunter-gatherers, barbarians. The job of a man was to get up in the morning, go for hunting, hunt the animal, bring back the lunch. And in the evening, the men gather around a fire and look into the fire. They don't talk much. They just look into the fire or sit on a rock and gaze at the horizon. Meanwhile, the women, they are all staying in caves, nest defenders. They have to look after the children where they are moving around. They have to look for predators that's coming. They have to socially interact. They have to borrow things. They have to give things. They have to help each other. They have to be very soft in how they talk. They have to put sentences long to make it look very pleasing. So this has been happening for nearly 200,000 years. Only recently has there been a shift in jobs. Like men are changing nappies, men are doing cooking, women are becoming executives. So this short span of 100, 200 years of this change, which is contrasting with 200,000 years of behavior, is causing a lot of stress and confusion. It's not enough time for a proper evolutionary changes to happen. So that is why men get thoroughly confused and women get thoroughly confused. Now you may ask, what are the difference? One of the difference between male brain and female brain is that about color vision. You know that achromatopsia, which is color blindness, is more common in men. Why? Because the chromosome and the gene for color vision is passed from generation to generation through the X chromosome. And male has only one X chromosome. So if that is defective, the fellow is completely colorblind. Woman has two X chromosomes, so even if one is defective, she is still not colorblind unless both are defective, which are rare. Now, the other disadvantage is that because the men have only one X chromosome, his color vision perception is not as good as a woman who has two X chromosomes. So women have better color perception. Men can only differentiate between basic colors, red, yellow, green, blue, black, white. But you ask a man to differentiate between purple, violet, and pink, many a times men get confused. To make things more complicated, if you ask them what's the difference between olive green, jungle green, aqua green, turquoise green, emerald green, he gets completely lost. So my request to women here is that if your man cannot differentiate colors, if you ask him, why don't you wear your green shirt, and you find that he's wearing a blue shirt, that's not a problem with him. That's because he's having defective genes in his single X chromosome. Now, the other difference is in peripheral vision. If you go to an optician and check your visual field, both men and women have identical, equal visual field. That is what they see under testing conditions. But under non-testing conditions, in day-to-day life, what men see is not what men observe. Men see this much under testing conditions, but in real life, he sees only this much. He observes only this much. He has telescopic vision. Whereas women can see and observe everything under testing and non-testing conditions. Why is this happening? This is because, as I told you, men were hunters. As a hunter, when you go for hunting, our great-grandfathers over the generations, they cannot afford to look up sides when they are hunting for an animal. They have to take the bow and arrow, focus on the animal, telescopic vision. Over the years, they have practiced that. And that's why today's man also, when he opens his cupboard and looks for his socks, he doesn't see his socks. He calls his wife, where is my sock? She comes and says, that's right in front of you. Poor fellow cannot see because he has telescopic vision. So I request the women, please understand, when your man cannot find something inside the cupboard, it's because over the generations, his fathers, great-grandfathers have been used to telescopic vision, and unfortunately, he's carrying a Y chromosome. This is a problem in a social gathering also, assuming that a man and woman goes for a party. And suddenly, the woman tells the man, you see that couple standing by the window, and the man slowly turns his head to look at them, and the wife says, don't turn your head, can't you see them without turning? Poor fellow cannot see because he has telescopic vision. So please understand, if your husband cannot see things on the periphery, it's because he's having telescopic vision that is transferred to him over generations. So all these behaviors, both for women and men, are as a result of genetic transmission, which are hormonally dependent and by birth or by the chromosomes. Because in a fetus, the testosterone and estrogen plays a significant role in the behavioral development of the brain. Now, this has another implication if you're driving. If you're driving in the daytime, it is better a woman drives. And in the nighttime, it is better a man drives. Because in the daytime in India, it's not just enough to see the road in front. You have to see everything around. The cyclist coming from the side, the pedestrian coming from this side, the signpost, the traffic signals hidden somewhere. So all this can be seen only with someone with a broader visual field. But in the night time, it is better a man drives. Because in the night, all these distractions are gone because it's dark. And all you have is a straightforward beam of light. You have to judge the distance, the speed, the braking distance. This involves a lot of mathematical skill and analytical mind, which is a function of the parietal lobe, and men have better parietal lobe development. So in the night, it's better a man drives, and in the daytime, it is better a woman drives. Now, coming to speech, this is a huge topic by itself. Language center is much more developed in women and at an early age. That is why small girls speak earlier a language than boys. If you look internationally at language teachers, whether it is Spanish, Italian, Burmese, Afrikaans, whatever, most of the language teachers are women because they are very good in language. Their speech center is well developed. This is reflected even in our school results. Now, this is an example. I don't know whether any of you have seen this. This is Malayalam Manorama newspaper, Kochi edition, came this morning. This shows photographs of 205 students who got A+ in all subjects in +2. Students who got A+ in all subjects in +2. 205 students, out of which 198 are girls. Only 7 are boys. But if you look at the university level, postgraduate level, this difference is not there. The gap shortens. In some areas like engineering and architecture, the gap shortens so much, sometimes the boys overtake the girls in number also. Is it because the boys become intelligent? No. Is it because the girls are intelligent in school? No. School syllabus is all about language. You have to study English, Malayalam, Hindi, and whatever subjects you learn has to be either in English medium or Malayalam medium. So it's all about language and remembering this. As I told you, girls, the speech and language center is much more developed and develops at an early stage. So there is no role for analytical or logical or mathematical reasoning in school. It's all mugging up present syllabus. So the girls are very good in that. If you look at the SSLC results over the last few days or few weeks, A+, it's very difficult to find a boy in that group of photos. But as you go into engineering and architecture or postgraduate studies, this language takes a backseat and the logical reasoning takes a front seat, and there boys catch up. Girls are also good in that, no doubt, but boys catch up. Now, I have told earlier about women speaking more than men, so I'm not going into that. I think most of you know about it. The other thing I want to talk about is the way men and women speak. Men speak direct, women speak indirect. I'll tell you an example. John and Mary is going in a car. John is driving. They pass a Starbucks cafe. Mary asks John, "Darling, would you like to have a cup of coffee?" John said, "No, thanks." And he drove off. John was thinking, it's so kind of Mary to ask if I want a cup of coffee. She's so considerate. She's so loving. After 5 minutes, he doesn't hear Mary talking anything. You know, when a woman goes silent for 5 minutes, it's a red flag. So he starts wondering what's happening. He asks Mary, "Why are you silent?" Mary said, "You didn't stop for coffee." He said, "You didn't ask me to stop for coffee." When Mary asked him, "Would you like to have a cup of coffee?" what Mary means is that, "Please stop. I feel like having a cup of coffee. We'll have a coffee together. We can spend some quality time together. It will be so romantic." But poor John, he has a testosterone-driven, Y-chromosomal male brain. He needs direct message. He needs to be told what to be done very clearly in no uncertain terms. That is not his fault. That's the problem with the male brain. So I have to request the women members here that if you want to tell something to a man, tell him directly. Tell him clearly what you want and when do you want, how do you want it to be done. And to my men folk, I have to say that women are used to indirect talk because that's the correct thing to do in this world. How is international conflict solved? By diplomacy. Diplomacy is talking. Talking is essential. If this world is dominated by men, there will hardly be any diplomacy. There will be only taking guns and shooting each other and killing. So diplomacy and talking is essential. Indirect speech is essential. So men should understand that women are diplomatically better. That's why they are doing indirect speech. And women should understand that this poor man cannot understand indirect speech because he's a barbarian, he's a hunter, he needs clear-cut, direct information. Now coming to reading maps. Nowadays we have this GPS system, so you don't really have to read maps, but just in case, if you hold a road map in your hand, or as a tourist and you want to find your way, Men are good in finding the way using roadmap, whereas women gets lost. Very simple. Our great-grandfathers used to go for hunting. They used to find their way into the forest, and they used to return back in the opposite direction. If they're going forward and turning right and turning left, on their way back, they have to come forward, turn right, and then left. So initial turning right and left becomes right and left on your way back. So where you turn left, they have to turn right. This is inverting the map in the mind. Male brain can do it, female brain cannot do it. That's an advantage for the male brain because they were hunters. And that's a disadvantage for the female brain because they were nest defenders. They never had to read the map upside down. A study had been done in UK based on this concept. They made road maps upside down and sold it. And 80% of the people who bought the upside down map were women because it's so easy for them to read the upside down map than looking at a map and mentally reverse the picture. So there's nothing wrong with women, nothing wrong with men. It is the way human beings have evolved. It is important to understand each other. So a man should not get angry at a woman when she says she cannot read the map upside down. Now, giving directions. If a man asks for a direction, which they hardly do, if men gets lost, very rarely they ask for direction because it hurts their ego. Highly egoistic, no doubt about it. Because traditionally, men were the protectors of the family. If they go for hunting and they don't get an animal, they don't want to come back and tell that tonight we are going to starve. That hurts his ego, so he just hides his failure. Men generally like to hide their failure, thanks to our ancestral evolution. So if a man gets lost, he can't find his way, he doesn't like to admit it. He will still drive around. But if he asks for direction by any chance, you can give him direction exactly. You can tell him go straight 300 meters, turn right 200 meters, turn left, go another 1 kilometer, and then you have to take a bifurcation to the right, go 500 meters, and you see the house on the left side. You give the same direction to the woman with a female brain. I mean, I have to tell one thing. Okay. When I say man and woman, I'm talking about male brain, female brain. Okay. Most men have 80% male brain, 20% female brain. Most women have 80% female brain, 20% male brain. So each aspect, like map reading, some men can have 50% of female brain, 50% male brain. Some men can have 80% and 20%. But by and large, of all these things, men have 80% male brain, female have 80% female brain. So if a woman says, no, I can read maps upside down, that means for that particular aspect, she has got a male brain. Now, if you want to give direction to a woman the same way, you don't tell her go 100 meters, turn right 200 meters, then turn left 500 meters, bifurcation. Distance calculation in the mind is not so good for female brain. If you want to give direction to a woman, you have to tell, go straight, then you see Kalyan jewelry on your left side, you turn right there, then you see a boutique where sale is going on, then you turn left, and as you go, you will find a beauty parlor, then you turn right, you will find a beautifully decorated house with nice exterior design, and further down, you'll find the pink house on the left side. So they need clear-cut landmarks which suits their emotional aspect of the brain. As I told you, female brain has highly developed prefrontal cortex, orbitofrontal cortex, insula, superior temporal area, amygdala. These are all part of the limbic system. Emotional coloring to the psychic process. Women are highly emotional. Men are crude. So this difference, if you understand each other, then you won't blame each other because it is not each person's fault. It has been transmitted out to us for generations. The same applies with parallel parking also. Women are very poor in parallel parking. That's why when it comes to insurance claim policies, the insurance premium for women in many countries is much less if it's a female driver, whereas it's high for a man because men drive with testosterone driven. They press on the accelerator, they are aggressive, rash. But they can reverse park parallel parking, because reverse parking needs calculation of the angle, the distance, how much tire you have to turn. All these mental calculation has to be done and to be updated at every second as you turn the steering, which is not, unfortunately, very well developed in women. So they get into these minor bumps and dents in the car, but not serious accidents. Coming to multitasking, you must be wondering, many of the people, why most of the secretaries are women. We think that, oh, secretaries are women because women are pretty. No, that's not the reason. Women are efficient as secretaries. A secretary needs multitasking ability. She has to attend the phone call, she has to take notes, she has to answer the boss, she has to ask who to give appointment, many things going on in her mind, and she has to do everything at the same time. Have you ever watched a man watching a television and suddenly his phone rings? While answering the phone, he reduces the volume of the TV. He cannot listen to the TV, watch the TV and answer the phone. Poor fellow is not good in multitasking. But a woman can watch the television, talk over the phone, and continue cooking at the same time. Somebody asked how many men it takes to vacuum a floor in a house. Answer is nobody knows because no man ever did it. I mean, it's just a joke. But multitasking is very efficient in female brain because multitasking involves functioning of both right and left half of the brain simultaneously. And for these to function, there's a connection called corpus callosum. We all know that. And corpus callosum has much more compact fibers, thicker fibers in female as compared to men. So they can pass information between right and left much more efficiently than men. When his left brain works, his right brain shuts off. When his right brain works, his left brain shuts off. Now, the other thing is the taste buds. Women love chocolates. Men love beer. See, beer is bitter, whiskey is bitter. But women love strawberry, gin, even if they take drinks. Why is it like that? Because as I said again, we are still barbarians, evolutionary. We have not changed much. As barbarians, when you go for hunting, you cannot afford to look for a ripe mango. You just get whatever mango, unripe or whatever, and you eat. Roots, plant stem, these are bitter. Whereas women, they collect the fruits, they keep it for ripening, and they taste it before giving to the children to make sure it is ripe to be given to the children. So over the generations, women has developed a taste bud, a sweet tooth. That's why it said that when men get stressed, they drink alcohol and invade neighboring countries. When women get stressed, they eat chocolate and invade shopping malls. Women love shopping. Have you ever gone with a woman for shopping? It said that if a man goes with a woman for shopping, in 20 minutes time, he'll develop a brain hemorrhage. The reason is very simple. Men are hunters. When they go for shopping, they go with a fixed mind. I want a size 10 black shoe with lace, with a short heel. I go straight to the shop, look for the size 10, try out few shoes, buy and come home. That's my lunch. That's equivalent to hunting the lunch and bringing it home. Whereas a woman, when she goes for shopping, she goes with a particular plan, but she gets distracted by some other shop, some other sales, some other beautiful item. This is because traditionally they were nest defenders. They cannot afford to focus on one thing while defending the nest. They have to look at the child, they have to look at the neighbors, they have to look where fire is coming, they have to look where predators are coming, they have to guard the nest, they have to do multiple things, they have to have a much more wider perception, and they are never in a hurry. There's no need to be in a hurry. So that is why women love shopping. There's nothing wrong in that. What I'm telling the men is that when you go with a woman and she goes from shop to shop, and in the end may not buy anything or buy something which was not what she intended to buy, don't get upset. This is not her fault. And if a man gets irritated, my request to women is that don't get upset, because he's a hunter, barbarian. He's used to hunting the animal and bring it back quick. Now, facial expression. This is one common problem people have. Generally, women say that when I talk to him, when I talk to you, you are emotionless. You are not listening. What women expect is that when a woman talks to you, a story or an incident, that incident may have situations of anxiety, depression, happiness, joy, sorrow, tragedy, comedy. At each of these situations, your facial expression is supposed to change so she knows that you are listening. But men are stone-faced. Whatever the situation, they sit like this. Have you ever watched a man watching a movie? Don't look at the movie, watch his face. You have no idea what's going on in the screen because his expression is the same. Whereas woman's expression keeps on changing depending on the situation in the screen. Because as I told you, the limbic system is much more developed in women. They are highly emotional. And it's very important to be emotional as we are human beings. We cannot afford to be crude. But a man whose facial expression doesn't change doesn't mean that he is not listening. Poor fellow is listening. He cannot show it on his face because he's still a barbarian. So we are all listening, but don't believe that we are not listening. Now, hearing. You see small children in school. I said the language center is much more developed in girls at an earlier age and much more than in boys. Same with hearing. Girls develop better hearing at a younger age than boys. Who knows this better? Class teacher. Have you ever heard or seen a class teacher reprimanding a student? If a class teacher reprimands a girl student, she calls her and says, "Hey Mary, come here. You did this and that. I don't tolerate it. Don't do this again." Whereas the same teacher calls the little Johnny and says, "Hey Johnny, you did this, not it. Come on, Johnny, look at me." Both Mary and Johnny will be looking down like this. But the teacher knows that Mary can still hear what she's saying, but poor Johnny, his hearing is not well developed. He has to do lip reading. So teacher keeps on telling, "Look at me, look at me." By some sixth sense, the teacher realized that boys develop hearing. They can hear sounds, but they cannot perceive the spoken words at a much later stage as compared to girls. So if parents, if you want to tell something to your little daughter or little son, please understand that the poor son is not listening properly. It's not because of his fault. It's because of developmentally, his hearing is not well developed at that time. Now, telephone. Men use telephone as an instrument for passing information. Average telephonic talk between two men is about 2 minutes. Average. I mean, there are situations where they talk for hours, but that's different. Average. Whereas women, they see it an instrument for exchange of emotions. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong here, nothing wrong there. This is the way it is. And both are important. It is important that you speak only very little. You get the information because somebody else wants to call you. You need to keep the phone down. It's also important to have emotional aspect because you cannot be abrupt and crude when somebody is calling. You have to talk. You have to inquire about their well-being. It's very important. Women go into details when they talk to each other. Something that can be condensed so much, women like to elaborate it because their speech center is developed and they are highly emotional. So they want to have an empathy towards each other, which is very good. So both are good. You cannot blame. Some people say, "Hey, Jan, I've been calling you for so long. Why you are on the phone so long?" Obviously, she has to be diplomatic. And women say that, in fact, my wife says that, whenever she calls me, "Can you buy this?" I said, "Okay, how many kilos you want?" 2 kilos. "Okay, buy." She said, "You just say, okay, buy." I said, "You gave me all the information. What more I want? I don't want to say, how are you? The cloud is there. It may rain. Bananas are costly these days." I don't want to tell you all that. So it's important to know the problem is not with the person. The problem is with our genetic makeup. Once we understand it, and we cannot change each other, don't try to change each other. Accept people as they are because it's not their personal fault. Women are touch-feeling. When a woman gets very angry at someone, at a man, her boyfriend or husband, and he touches her, she said, "Don't touch me." But you will never hear a man saying, "Don't touch me." Man's skin is rough because he's a hunter. He had been hunting around for us all these years. A woman As I told you, the touch is perceived much more because the skin is more sensitive than men because they are not hunters, and the emotional coloring to the touch is also much more. So women love touch, but don't use this as an opportunity to touch and all that. But I'm just telling you, women are touch feeling, whereas men, many a time they don't like to be touched. Nothing wrong in that, just a fact. Problem solving. Now this is very important. These days, men and women work. Both are working people. If a man comes home from work and he appears to be stressed, the single thing a woman must do is let him be alone. He will come home, think about the problem, go to the sofa, sit there. At that moment, he becomes the barbarian forefather. When he has a problem, he used to climb on the mountain, sit on a rock, and gaze at the horizon, not talking. He will think over it, he will solve his problem, and then he will become the normal self. The best a woman can do is that give him a cup of coffee or a couple of biscuits and move away. Don't ask him, what's your problem? Tell me. That's very annoying for a man. And my advice to men is that if your woman is working and she comes home and appears stressed, don't think she has a male brain like you. She has a female brain, and you don't expect her to go and sit in one corner and think about it and solve it. Women love to talk about their problem. So if your wife comes home with a problem which appears to be a problem, you have to ask her, what's the problem? Don't let her solve it herself. She wants to talk. Now, the second mistake men must not do is that when a woman starts telling her problem, most often men think of solution. Men are problem solvers. They want solutions. If there's a broken window, they have to fix it. If the fan is not working, he has to fix it. He wants to fix everything. You can try all that, but don't try to fix a problem of your female partner, because if they have a problem, they like to talk about it. And when they talk about it, they are not looking for a solution. They are looking for a listener. You may have the solution instantly, but don't jump to solutions. Keep it to yourself. Listen, listen, listen till she tells all the problems. And at the end, when she asks for a solution, come out with a solution. This is very important. Many of the conflicts are because of not understanding these two principles. Men think something and women come and ask, come on, tell me what. He said, come on, don't disturb me. You are annoying me. And woman gets upset. When woman says she has a problem, he says, okay, you think over it, that's bad. You don't care about me. You don't love me. It's not that. It's because of the particular way the brains are wired. Now, have you ever gone to a restaurant? If you go to a restaurant, if you're a man, you will find that subconsciously, you will find that you feel more comfortable occupying a chair facing the main entrance. If you are alone, if you sit in a chair with your back to the main entrance, you feel very uncomfortable. Try it next time. If he goes with a family, he won't mind sitting. But if he's going alone, he would like to sit facing the entrance. The reason is, again, very simple. Men are hunters. As a hunter, when you're inside a cave, any attack can come from the mouth of the cave. He has to constantly watch the mouth of the cave to protect himself and those around him. So that habit still prevails in him. These days, there is no mouth of the cave. The only attack you get ever in a restaurant is when the waiter comes with the bill. That's a huge attack if the bill is too much. Otherwise, no physical attack virtually happens in a restaurant. The same thing happens in sleeping. If you go to a hotel and you take a room, and if you're a man, you get a much better sleep if you sleep on the side of the bed closer to the door than on the far side of the door. Again, the same principle. Attack from wild beasts or animals can come from the mouth of the cave. So it's much safer to lie there. If you lie on the far side, you find your sleep is a bit disturbed and you don't realize why. That's because you are not protecting the cave. Women have a very high sixth sense. They can read body languages much more than men. When man is talking to someone and if he gets little emotionally upset, the other fellow, this man most often cannot judge, but a woman can immediately judge. She will pull the man. She said, no, stop it. This fellow is getting upset. The other fellow is getting upset. But the man with the male brain cannot understand that because he's poor in his body reading, body language reading ability. This again has come from the tradition because as a hunter, you don't have to read body language. But as a nest defender living in a society, a woman has to read the body language and has to develop a sixth sense about how others are thinking and behaving. Now, this is my advice to men. Women have a high sixth sense. So if you ever want to tell a lie to a woman, either tell it over the phone so they cannot read your body language, or go to the next room or cover your face with a blanket. Otherwise, your body language will expose. I'm not telling you to tell lies, I'm just telling this. Now, have you ever watched men and women watching TV? Men has the habit of flicking channels. He won't stay with one channel for long, especially if it's a news channel or some program. You know, women always complain, why are you flicking the channels? Why don't you watch one thing at a time? Because a man for whom he just wants the bottom line, he just wants to know what's happening, and then he's a problem solver. He has to go to the next thing. But as a woman would like to see everything that is going on in a serial or in a program, even the commercials. If a woman and man goes to a hospital to visit a patient, a man, when he walks into a hospital, the things he is noticing is different from what the woman will be noticing. A man will be looking at the broken windows, the bulb is broken, is the fan working, is the side railing of the bed working. He is looking at things to fix. Is the tiles broken? Whereas a woman, when he walks in, she'll be looking at who is staying with the patient. Is it the same person who stood as a bystander yesterday? How are they related to the person? Is it the mother or the grandmother or the sister-in-law? What saree is she wearing? Who are the people in the next bed? So it is a big difference of what you observe and what you see. Now, having said all this, many of you might be wondering, you know, okay, all these differences, agreed. And obviously, as you say, we cannot change this. We have to accept this. Now, how to live with all these differences with each other, how to understand and how to live peacefully and happily. What should I do? I cannot change. I cannot try to be a female brain. My wife cannot try to be a male brain. Now, what should I do? Now, this is my suggestion. To all men, if you want to make your wife happy, you have to do only these few things. To her, you have to be a good husband, a good friend, at times a good brother or like a father or like a son. You have to be a good mechanic, a carpenter, electrician, plumber, driver, or at times a good chef. You have to be rich, romantic, funny, intelligent, and caring. You have to be a good listener, and you have to be neat and clean. You have to give compliments, definitely. You have to take her for shopping, and you have to remember anniversaries, birthdays, and Valentine's Days. And to all the women, I have to say, if you want to make your man happy, you just have to leave him alone. Thank you. Dr. Joy?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Dr. Haroon. That was a nice presentation. I think all of you would agree with me that that was a wonderful and exciting presentation. As mentioned, of interesting characteristics of men and women, which may be useful to us in understanding. But being a psychiatrist, I am very skeptical about the utility of this knowledge in resolving or elevating the marital harmony, because each individual is different and we cannot generalize these things. Marital disharmony is something which evolves over time and depend on the personalities of spouses, their cultural and social background, genetics, addictions, influence of parents, and peer socialization, and a lot more. But definitely, these are really useful things to understand, will help us to understand each other better. And the floor is open for discussion and comments.
Haroon, can I ask something, Haroon?
Yes, yes. Yes.
See, I am Dr. Suresh Nair. I was the previous head of the Department of Neurosurgery at Chitra Tirunal Institute. And I happen to be Haroon's teacher at Chitra. And very good talk. Haroon, always, all your talks are exemplary. And one thing which I want to tell you, if I am incorrect, you can always correct me. You told the differences. But, amygdala is better developed in male rather than female, while hippocampus, other things are all well developed in the female, but amygdala, which is the emotional, which controls the emotional aspect there, it is more well developed in males. That is why depression, other things you see more in males. And other thing you correctly told, in females, both sides of the brain can talk very freely and they can multitask because of that. And also what I thought I should tell the viewers that there is some anatomical basis for why females see everything in a room, because they have more rods, which are the receptors in the central area. Fovea, macula area, they have more rods. More cones. More cones. Hello. Hello. I think it got cut. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. No problem.
They have got more rods and more cones also. So they can see detailed aspect of everything. Females, while males, they don't have that. There is some anatomical basis for that. Excellent talk, Haroon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Sir, I'm Dr. Lakshmi. I'm Dr. Lakshmi from Thrissur, gynecologist. It was a wonderful talk. Too good. I happened to read that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So in that also he tells all these things. So beautifully, you have presented it very well.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, sir. I am Dr. Sri. Good evening, sir. I am Dr. Sri Kumar Vasudev from Talasheri. Looking at the topic and looking at the speaker, I joined all the way from Talasheri. But I must tell you that it was a wonderful talk, a very highly informative talk. We enjoyed it. I'm with my wife. I forced my wife to sit here and listen to it, and she was highly impressed. And I must tell you, it must have impressed many, many females and many wives. I'm sure it was very, very informative. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sri Kumar, for your.
So I am Dr. Srivilas from North Parur, Ernakulam. Sir, your talk was very highly amazing and excellent. I want to ask you why ladies are more emotional and why their literature writings are more emotional. Literature, for example, Madhi could be. For example, Gracie in Malayalam, or something like that. Or why they are so much emotional in the writing.
Why they are so much emotional?
In expression and also in literature, their writings.
Now, basically, as I told you, the part of the brain that is very well developed in women are those concerned mostly with the limbic system and judgment and social interaction, the prefrontal lobe, orbital frontal cortex, insula. So these are much more developed in women, and especially their right and left connection. So they can really balance between the emotional, colorful aspect of the brain by general terms, which is the right brain, and the analytical brain, which is the left brain. So they have a good connection and they have a predominant all this emotional coloring aspect going on in the brain, because everything becomes clear if you look at the history. Men had never had the opportunity to for all these emotions, because men's job was to go for hunting, hunt the animal, bring it back, and then climb on the mountain, sit on the rock and look at the horizon and worry about the next day's lunch. That's all his job was. So that's why he has not developed all these things. And women have a high they have an empathy for each other. If you look at counselors, women are better counselors than men. When a person comes for counseling, the person is not looking for a solution immediately. He is looking for an audience. And men, expressionless face, focusing on solutions, abrupt, and people find it very uncomfortable.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Jojo Thompson. Hello, I'm Dr. Jojo Thompson from Malappuram district. Excellent talk. Because I read all the books like Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus, and why they collide each other. But I love to hear the physiology and the anatomy linked to this. Excellent, because the medicine part of it, how is linked to this program? Like why the men of Mars, like why men from Mars and women are from Venus. Excellent. And I do training program for this. I love to add all these points when I do as a doctor for this. I do training programs of Be Happy Married Life. So thank you for all the knowledge. Thank you, sir. Excellent.
Thank you.
I am Dr. Andrews, Professor and HOD Ophthalmology, Jubilee Mission Medical College, Thrissur. Sir, Haroon sir, it is an excellent talk. I agree with all the topic, all the subject, especially color vision and everything more in males. But I don't agree with the men who has tubular or telescopic vision. That I don't agree as being an ophthalmology professor, because I have done options of field analysis of male and female, and both are the same field unless and until they have a glaucoma. So otherwise, I agree.
Can I clarify?
Yes.
Can I clarify?
Yes.
You are absolutely right. I said under testing conditions, visual field is normal under testing conditions. But under non-testing conditions on a day-to-day life, what men see is not what they observe. Their observation under non-testing conditions becomes sort of tubular. But under testing conditions, yes, visual fields are identical.
But you said men are hunters. Well, hunters means they should have a wide field of vision. Then why should we have a telescopic view?
Well, when they venture into the forest, maybe, but when they look at the, if you remember Mahabharata, you know, Dronacharya asked Arjuna. Dronacharya asked somebody, I don't know who, Yudhishthira or somebody, what do you see? He said, I see the eagle. Then he asked Arjuna, what do you see? He says, I see the eye of the eagle. He doesn't even see the eagle. He sees the eye of the eagle. So that is how much telescopic focus you have to do when you take a bow and arrow. No talking, silence, not seeing anything else, absolutely telescopic. Just see the eye of the eagle. So over 200,000 years, this was the only job of man. He had no other job. He never used to cook or clean or anything. He just hunts, bring back the animal, look into the fire or look at the horizon.
Okay, in that aspect, I agree. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So Dr. Pawan here, Dr. Haroon, sir. I need to ask something like recently all of us have seen the news of one dental doctor was shot dead yesterday following an issue. Similarly, over the past few days, we have seen many other similar cases. Like we have seen one man, he has killed his wife using a poisonous snake. Then another case, even one government official was involved, like his wife committed suicide following a dowry issue. And we are going through similar issues in day-to-day life. We are seeing so many issues in the newspaper. What is your comment on that? Like, is it because of more, like you said, more barbarian and more violent nature of men compared to women, or is it because of anything else? What is your opinion on that?
First of all, I have to say I am not a family counselor. I mean, I just happen to know this, why I shared my knowledge. I think Dr. Sam is a better person, but from what I could understand, like Dr. Sam said, it is multifactorial. It's just nothing to do with pure male brain or female brain. It's got to do with the education, the society, the frustrations, the family support. Everything comes together. Like this man, what I read in newspaper is that he was keeping aloof. He hardly had any friends. He was keeping aloof. And this lockdown also must have caused a lot of stress in him. And I was speaking to my anesthetist in my hospital, Dr. CJ John. He's the head of, not anesthetist, psychiatrist. This morning we were discussing this. I asked him, what made this man kill this girl. And he was telling that it's all the frustration that is coming in, and plus the sense of dependency. He was keeping aloof. He had no one to depend on. And he found this girl with whom he could depend so much. And when that girl was moving away from him, he felt lonely. And plus the ego issues of male, especially the male chauvinistic attitude, which unfortunately is still prevalent in Kerala. I'm sorry to say this. So if I love this girl must love me back. Otherwise, I feel very upset. If I don't get this girl should not get anybody else. So all this put together must have caused this dastardly act by him. I'm sure Dr. Sam will have a better answer for this. He's a psychiatrist.
As Dr. Haroon rightly pointed out, see, the male chauvinist behaviors plays a significant role, but basically comes to its personality, because he was having some issues, maybe because of a part of illness or because of his personality, because of which he was aloof, and he was trying to get her, and the rejection from her was actually a kind of a big blow to him. He does not have anything else. So he reaches in a situation where he doesn't know what to do. So the only thing which he feels that kind of a rage, and that might have been a kind of an impulsive attack, wherein he has not thought about the future consequences of that to an extent, because that's a very common thing where most of the people try to commit suicide or try to do these kind of activities. They are very impulsive people wherein they don't think much before they do. So they jump into action and then get into trouble. So it's very difficult to tell at this point of time what was the exact reason unless we talk to that guy, because there may be a lot of things which he really don't know. And coming to the other dowry deaths, see, that is again a big social issue, because it's like, see, that person had a lot of debt and he got married to that lady thinking, because that girl who was killed with the snake bite, actually that from what all information we have, that girl was having intellectual insufficiency. So that guy married a girl with an intellectual insufficiency, thinking about the kind of money he is going to get. So he wanted to make advantage of it. So other than that, the kind of personality he had, the parental influences, the influence of his mother and the sister, the greediness for money, and they knew that as this girl has some difficulties, her parents would give them more money. So a lot of these things are adding to it. But basically, it's about our society, wherein people have a tendency that the male should get married by the time of 26, 28. Whether people don't think whether they are able to take care of a family, whether they have a job, whether they have a stable person. It's like everybody is getting married, so my son should also get married. It's the same with the females. Nobody asks for permission from girls whether they are ready to get married or they are willing to take care of a family. But it's like, it's by 18, 20, 21. Our society makes people's life difficult if they don't get married their son or a girl within a stipulated time framed by the society. And again, many people come to marriage to resolve their financial debts. There are a lot of people who plan their life like that. If I get married, I will get some 50 lakh dowry, so that with that I can buy a house, then I can do some business. This is how many people think. So that is a problem with the society. And of course, the personality of that individuals, the family influence, all these things matters. So, but each and every case is different. So we have to clearly get into the details of each case. Then only we can explain about these things. It is very difficult to generalize because the important factors in each cases is totally different. Thank you.
So what happens in transgenders?
I have no idea. Sorry, I thought about it this morning. I have absolutely no idea.
Sir, transgender, see, as of now, we don't have much conclusive data on the neurobiological underpinnings of transgender or the sexual orientation difficulties, because many studies have not shown non-conclusive evidences. So it's more of a from the psychological aspect rather than the so-called the structural or functioning aspect of the brain. But of course, there are few studies which have come up with some ideas, especially based on the hormonal analysis and the functional MRI. But we don't have a very conclusive data on the transgender or the sexual orientation problems.
Excellent program, Joy sir and Pawan, for a program like this. You must come again like these programs like this. Congratulations, President and the Secretary.
Thank you.
There is one more question, Dr. Ashita.
Yeah, I have a question. Hello, I'm Ashita. I'm a first-year surgery resident in KMC Manipal. So my question is, like, it's all like even the anatomical differences, let them be there, but all the evolutionary biology-based explanations. So it's actually based on a history, which is nothing but a sequence or a series of events that were nothing but a chance set of events that perpetuated due to some reason, and it got continued. So is it really relevant in this day and age to perpetuate at least some of these male-female dichotomies? So at least based on certain less desirable traits, or at least with respect to certain skill sets, is it really necessary to differentiate between men and women? That is, male brain is better at this, or female brain is more skilled at a particular activity, or rather we just leave it very independent, we just leave it very gender fluid and let the people figure it out themselves without them being judged against just by virtue of being male or female. Like, let them just figure it out by themselves. So like, skills are basically polished with practice and they can explore those skills. So rather than like declaring right at the outset that this is something a male is good at, or this is something a female can be better at, like, why can't we just let them explore? So even those less desirable traits can be handled that way. So what's the relevance of some of these dichotomies nowadays?
Excellent. That's a very valid point you raised. The thing is that nobody wants this. I mean, everybody wants it to be equal. You know, if this world where men and women think alike in any given situation, that's the best. That's why it said that in marriage, people look for horoscope, right? We call it Jatagam, horoscope matching. And better than that will be if there is a provision to look at how much male dominant brain this fellow got, how much female dominant brain this person has. If a man with a 50% male brain, 50% female brain marries a woman with a 50% male brain, 50% female brain, that will be a very good marriage. Even better will be a man with a 100% female brain with a woman with a 100% female brain, or a man with a 100% male and a woman with a 100% male brain. But this doesn't happen. The worst scenario is a man with a 100% male brain trait marrying a woman with a 100% female brain trait. That marriage will not go past the honeymoon stage. Now, why I emphasized all this is so that people become aware that whatever thinking differences, behavioral differences happen between man and woman is not a fault of that particular person, because most often I see only my wife. I don't assess all the women in this world. So unless I know that some behavior or some thinking process in her doesn't suit my thinking process, I tend to believe that this woman is abnormal. All other women are normal. This woman is abnormal. But I don't realize that this woman is thinking like that because it's a female brain trait over which she has no control. And I am thinking like this because I have a male brain trait. And these traits came through generations. So we have to change these traits. It takes generations. It doesn't happen overnight. When you try to change it overnight, conflict happens. So my aim of my presentation is for people to realize the problem is not with your spouse. The problem is with all the evolutionary thing that has happened all these years. And we try to understand each other, and we try to patch up or make up for the deficiencies which we feel each other has, and thereby leading a happy married life. Are you married?
No, not yet.
Okay, good.
Okay. One
I'm
more
sure
point.
you'll have a happy life.
Slowly, this is.
Yeah, can I continue? I have one more question.
Yeah, you go ahead, madam.
Yeah, so it's a very valid point in terms of acceptance, and it actually gives us very broad idea about accepting another person. So like bringing that evolutionary biology background into it is a very it's definitely a very valid point. But then on the flip side, does it somehow, like as we said, it came into being over generations, over several generations. So it might take a lot more generations to break that pattern to what is relevant to our day and age. So, but then does that also create some sort of a hindrance? Like we think it's not related to our skill set or our effort in changing a particular negative or a less desirable behavior pattern. But if we think that it's something that's been encoded in our genes or the DNA, it's something like, might we end up thinking that it's very difficult to break out of those negative patterns? So like I believe there are both advantages and disadvantages to that line of thought.
Yeah,
so,
basically I would like to correct one aspect. You said something about negative aspect. There's nothing negative. There's nothing negative about the way a female brain works or a way a male brain works.
Yeah, in a way that can induce conflict, not negative exactly.
Yes.
But like less expressive, direct or indirect. Now direct talk is straightforward talk is best with anyone.
Okay.
Like in any conversation that can settle issues faster and more lucidly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't advocate a woman to try to change into a male brain or a man to try to change into a female brain. That should not happen at all. If you try to do that, you become completely lost, irritated, frustrated, annoyed, and you stop being yourself. There's nothing wrong. Male brain can continue to be male brain, female brain must continue to be female brain. There's no doubt. There's nothing is positive or negative. This is correct, this is also correct, right?
Yeah.
What is important is that this must understand that this is normal, and this must understand this is normal.
Yeah.
This must not expect this to become this.
Yeah.
And this must not expect. You will not expect this only if you realize that this is not a personal fault. This is a genetic encoding, hormonally influenced behavior, which is correct.
Yeah.
My only aim of the presentation is to understand each other, not to change each other or to change self.
So can we expect that maybe sometime in future we might actually blur these tags like male brain, female brain, like that it'll end up just being traits, like certain traits, which are neither positive nor negative. Like we don't really need to tag it with a male or a female characteristic.
We don't have to. I mean, these are certain traits, but some of these traits, for example, let me tell you, visuospatial orientation, finding the way, or remembering a route to a particular place is a trait of male brain. Okay, it's a trait of male brain. Now, I have a predominant male brain, but when it comes to finding my way, I always get lost. So I have a female brain for that trait. So most men have female brain for certain aspects, male brain for certain aspects. It is not uniformly male and uniformly female. What I'm saying is not man and woman. I'm talking about male brain trait and female brain trait. And most men have 80% male brain trait.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Dr. Parvati from Thrissur. Your excellent talk, and one has to understand the partner. And usually we say that paraspara puragangalayirikkanam, the man and woman, and opposite poles attract always. And can you say something about matching of horoscopes in marriage?
No, I'm not an astrologer. I'm saying that if at all you have to match, if at all you want to match something to establish conformity or compliance, the best thing to match is how much male brain, female brain he has, how much male brain, female brain she has. If it is identical, that's the best marriage. But there's no way we can assess that. And this is just theory.
And also that won't suffice, because see, again from the psychiatrist point of view, the marital issues comes out because of a lot of issues. So see, the thing is that male brain and female brain, that difference is there, we all accept. But all men are different. So all of them are having the same brain, the same features, but why all of them are different? So the same thing with the females. So this is a kind of a generalization. What all things you have told is absolutely right, which is relevant. But when it comes to the practical utility, it may be a little bit difficult, because the marital disharmony and all those things happens because of a lot of other reasons, which has nothing to do with the brain areas. But definitely understanding each other's spouses with these features will definitely make some changes, because most of the time what happens is that one of the most frequent complaints men have about women is that women are always trying to change them. The same way, the most common complaint about women are men don't listen. So these are some of the things which are actually very small things, but if we understand, that will make significant difference. As Dr. Haroon pointed out, when their spouses come to talk to us with some problem, we never tend to listen to them. We never sit with them. We never listen to them. We try to just offer the solution and advice, then done. That is not what they want. So these kind of small things will make significant difference in the day-to-day interaction between the spouses. There is no difference of opinion on that. But the significant issues which is happening in a family have a lot of other aspects. So we will not be able to generalize these factors onto those things. Thank you. Any more questions?
There's a beautiful book called Gender Medicine by Mark Gleiserman. Gender Medicine, beautiful book. And gender difference, all the branches of medicine. It is known as Gender Medicine by Mark Gleiserman. It's a beautiful book comparing that. And then they say the researchers in the medical field is only 20% of women. They differentiate why they different women folk are less in profession. It's a beautiful book. Small book, beautiful. Gender Medicine.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, I do, sir. ഈ പാർവതിപടം പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യത്തിൽ ഹൊറോസ്കോപ്പിന്റെ സ്വാധീനം, ഹൊറോസ്കോപ്പ് ജാതകത്തിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ ജനിച്ച സമയം വെച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ്, ജനിച്ച സമയത്തെ നക്ഷത്രങ്ങളുടെ നിലവാരം വെച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ് വാസ്തവ അവർ കാൽക്കുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്തത്. അവർ പലപ്പോഴും പറയുന്ന പല കാര്യങ്ങളും യാഥാർത്ഥ്യത്തിന്റെ വക്കത്ത് എത്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. കാരണം ഇന്ന നക്ഷത്രം ജനിച്ച ആൾക്കാരായിട്ട് അവരുടെ വൈവാഹിക ജീവിതവും ഫ്യൂച്ചർ ജീവിതവും യോജിച്ചു പോകാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നില്ല. അതിന് കാര്യം പറയുന്നത് അവരുടെ സ്വഭാവത്തിന്റെ പ്രത്യേകതകൾ. താങ്കൾ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ 80% 20% ആ പ്രത്യേകത പോലെ തന്നെ ഇന്ന ക്യാരക്ടർ ഇന്ന നക്ഷത്രം ജനിച്ച ലേഡീസിന് ഇത്രത്തോളം ഇതുള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് ഇന്ന നക്ഷത്രം ജനിച്ച ആൾക്കാരായിട്ട് യോജിച്ചു പോകാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും, ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിരിക്കും. അത് മുൻകൂട്ടി കാണാൻ കഴിവുള്ള ഒരു പ്രത്യേകതയാണെന്നാണ് ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. ഇത് മാത്രമല്ല, ജാതകപ്പൊരുത്തം നോക്കുന്ന സമയത്തും ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ വളരെയധികം ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂലങ്കഷമായി ചിന്തിച്ചതിന് ശേഷം മാത്രമേ നല്ലൊരു ജ്യോത്സ്യരെ, ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ കേരളത്തിൽ കാണിപ്പേര് പോലും നല്ല ജ്യോത്സ്യരെ വസ്തുത അതിന് അനുവാദം കൊടുക്കുകയുള്ളൂ. കാരണം അത് മുൻകൂട്ടി കാണാൻ സാധിക്കും നക്ഷത്രം എന്ന് വെച്ചുകൊണ്ട്. അതിന്റെ സയന്റിഫിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യം പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഒരുപാട് പേഷ്യൻസിന്റെ അനുഭവത്തിൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഞാൻ ഒരു കാര്യം പറയാം. ആൾക്ക് അതിനെ കുറിച്ച് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നു.
Haroon sir.
Yes. Astrology is never scientific. It is not based on scientific principles.
Okay.
Astrology, I don't think it's acceptable.
Haroon sir, it's Dr. Jane Siman. I want to congratulate you sir for an excellent talk. And only one thing I want to clarify is, previously, as you said, 80% male brain and 20% female brain was the constitution in a male brain. And those were good hunters because they had to hunt. And only the survival of the fittest, because only the fittest could survive during that time. So only the 80% or 100% male brain could survive as a male during those times. But now we don't need the survival instincts anymore. So don't you think that nowadays the brain must have diluted, because so many people are there now with 50% male brain, and so many males will be there with 50% of male brain and 50% of female brain. They would have they are still surviving. And not only 80% male with males with 80% male brain used to survive because they were good hunters. So I think now the constitution must have changed. I think now what's your take on it?
That is why changing people.
So is that a question to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
so
sir.
Yes, sir.
What was the question? I didn't get it.
Previously, males were almost 100% had 100% male brain, or at least 80% male brain. Generally, they were good hunters, and only good hunters could survive during those times. But now, even male with 50% male brain and 50% female brain can survive because this area doesn't have any survival of the fittest. So now the constitution must have changed, because even if you take 100 people, even majority may not have 80% of male brain and 20% of female brain, because previous era, definitely when we were hunters, definitely almost all hunters, good hunters only could survive, and they had almost 100% or 80, at least 80% of male brains. Now that constitution must have diluted by now. Don't you think? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it will take time, the dilution, because I told you this Homo sapiens have been around for 200,000 years. So as our lifestyle changes, now women are becoming executives, men are babysitting, and men are becoming secretaries, men are doing diplomacy. In olden days, at the time of Alexander and Julius Caesar and all that, there's no diplomacy. You just go for an attack and war and kill and capture the land. Things are changing now. There's a lot of diplomacy done by men. So a lot of evolutionary process is taking place, but it will take time, because what we are trying to come over is some set pattern we are used to over 200,000 years. So until that change happens, which will take another 50,000, 60,000 years, hopefully in a few decades, let's hope so. Till then, it is important to understand the way my wife behaves is not her fault. That's all I'm telling. And my wife should understand the way I think and behave is not my fault. That's all I'm trying to say.
Any more questions from the floor? If there are no more questions.
Sir, one question, Ramalingam.
Yeah. Tell me, sir.
So why divorce is so much common in Kerala? Even the marriage, the next day, the very next day, in 24 hours, most of the marriages are not going to be. Why is it happening?
Sam, I think that question is for you.
So it's very difficult to say the reason, but most of the time, the second day or means the divorces which has happened within a few days' time is usually because of the difficulty in the spouses to get along. So that usually happens because of the personality differences. Suppose if a person with a male with a narcissistic and anarchistic personality marries a person with borderline personality disorder, female, then it's very difficult for that couple to go on. And earlier the system was that the joint family, and once a female is married to another family, she is not supposed to come back. There was no question of divorce. Her family members won't agree for a divorce. But right now the scenario has changed. As Dr. Haroon pointed out, even if we have the 50% male-female brain combination, but if we have 100% female brain mother-in-law, then things will change. Even if the couple has the best combination, but if the parents have got a very, very bad combination, or the mother-in-law is a problematic person, then it's gone. So there are a lot of factors like that. But the thing is, now there are a lot of financial independence. Females can stand on their leg. They don't completely get adjusted to what they have to go through. Earlier, their family members never allow them to come back after marriage. Now it is not the scene. So if they have a problem, they have support. Or even if their family doesn't support them, they are able to stand on their own legs. And people are not ready to make those adjustments. Earlier, people used to make a lot of adjustment. Now people are not. Even based on a very small fight, people go for divorces. Being a psychiatrist, I get to see people file divorce within a week's time. And I had an IT engineer who came to me saying that, sir, I am now very happy now after going to court, because I have stayed only for 16 days with my wife. And I thought that I am the person who got divorced very fast. But I got to see people who got divorced after a week's time. So that's the scene now. So, and a lot of people are not really reached a maturity level to go for marriage. Because if we see the people, the maturity level of individuals is actually low compared to the old ages. A person means 20 or 30 years back, a person at 25 years of age or 30 years of age, if you compare a person of 20 with a person of 30 years of age right now, the maturity level is very, 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 very low. And the way they think about the future, the way they think about how to run the family, how to take care of the family, most of the people are not into that level. And the way they have brought up, most of the people are brought up with all kinds of support from the family. people, they don't know what to do in their future life. So there are a lot of factors playing together, but most of the common cause for immediate divorces are the personality problems between the two spouses, which are very not at all compatible, because each and every person would be having some kind of personality issues. This is an exaggeration of the neurological problems in the neurological differences in the male and female brain, but that personality differences which are severe makes the problems very difficult, and most of the people end up in divorce nowadays. But of course, there are a lot of other issues.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I would like to say that the consumerism that has come into our lifestyle plays a lot of role, because when I was a child, if I have a toy or anybody has some personal things, we keep it. Even if it's damaged, we try to repair it. We don't throw it. Now, something that is little damage, you throw and get a new one. So that mindset is coming into play in interpersonal relationship. The other thing is that I always quote Lord Buddha about this. He said, desire is the root of all sufferings.
So I have a comment to make is to Dr. Shaji. The reason for divorce, I feel, is the marriage. It's the reason for the divorce. I agree with.
Sir, that's a very important point, because we have a custom that everybody should get married. People have to start thinking that why, what is the need for marriage? There are a lot of people who don't want to get married, but the family forces them to get married. There are a lot of homosexual individuals forced to marry heterosexual people and having a very difficult life. So our society also has to change significantly, because see, there is nothing like everybody should be married to have a complete life. People can live their own life in a way they want to. Why do they have to get into all these troubles? There are people who don't want to raise kids. People want to live alone. But our society doesn't allow that. Because if somebody doesn't marry, they are seen as an abnormal person. And their family will also have a lot of issues from their relatives. So the reason for divorce is a marriage.
Just interfere. Why should they be unnatural? I mean, they can be what you say is a living together family. You give respect and you take respect.
Of course.
That is a bit more positive than being a homosexual or being a different character or whatever it is.
No, sir, that is a valid thing, but the problem is that our society doesn't accept. No, that's a problem. Living together itself is not accepted very well in our culture.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Doctor, one question. Are you in favor of premarital counseling? Are you very much in favor? Because most of the divorces.
I think it's very important. I think premarital counseling is very important. One should never get married unless he realizes what he's stepping into. It's a completely different ball game, and you cannot have any wonderful imaginary dream world. Keep the expectations low, and marriage is like having a friend, give and take. Somebody said marriage is all about give and take. The husband gives and the wife takes. It's not like that. It's give and take for helping each other. It's like living with a friend. We have to get rid of the concept that that concept has to go. Only then it will be possible. Those concepts were okay when men were hunters and wives were nest defenders. Now women are working, they are financially independent. You have to treat each other as equal. That's the only solution. That needs premarital counseling, and make sure this fellow knows exactly what he's stepping into.
That's absolutely right.
Our kids are taking the respecting the elders from the parents only. They are learning from the parents only. They will be the role model of the parents. But if the parents behave in this way, will it not affect the future of the kids' behavior, children's behavior?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. They learn a lot. Children are best observers. They don't learn from what parents tell them. They learn by observing their parents. That's why for all parents, it's important how they behave in front of their children. What they teach is immaterial. Children don't learn by what they teach or preach. They learn by observing. Children might be playing with toys, but they must be observing everything that the father and mother is talking, and their moods, everything they will learn. One has to be extremely careful when in front of their children, the father and mother has to put up the best performance in front of children. Whatever fighting or nonsense they can do behind the children, not in front. Children observe, powerful observers. That's where they learn.
Absolutely right, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions or suggestions? Comments? If
why
there
the
are
crime rate is going up in Kerala, especially the children's? Why the adults are so much for the kids in the sexual relationship? Why? Pedanam, ennum kekam. Thus last 4 months, actually, nearly about 652 kids were balasangam cheyyapattu ennu paranju. Why?
One reason is that, sir, basically, Indian men are sexually starved. That is a one thing from to start with. I'm not telling that is the abnormal thing. Indian men are sexually starved compared with the other population. That is the first thing. Second thing, these kind of pedanums were there earlier also. It was not coming out. Okay. Because I should not be telling that, but we psychiatrists see a huge number of females with history of sexual abuse from their closest family members. It's a very, very common thing. You will never think about it. It's a very, very, very common thing. Very, very common. We get to see at least 2 to 3 cases per day.
My God.
It is that common. We never. So these kind of pedanums have been there from the beginning also, but it has started coming out now. That is the one thing. And people have started using substances. See, earlier we used to hear about amphetamines, the crystal meth, all those things in rave parties in Goa and Bangalore. But now you will get in any shops in Thrissur, whatever drugs you want. There are drug houses in Thrissur wherein female girls can go and have drugs and sleep there, and next day they can leave to home. In our Thrissur, you people won't believe, because these are the things which are happening. Every day, Thrissur excise is catching hold of these amphetamines and the crystal meth. So people have started using substances. People are drinking a lot of alcohol. A lot of people don't have job. They don't have family security. The family relationship is in vain. The relationships are problematic. So the behavior also have changed. And the influence of media also. So a lot of things have changed. Again, the personality factors. The kind of personality factors and social inhibitions we had earlier, we don't have that. People want immediate gratification. People are not worried about others' difficulties. They just want their things to be done. They are not worried about what is happening with the other person. So that kind of an antisocial traits coming into their mind. So all these things are on rise, but the sexual assaults against females have been there, against kids also have been there, but now they are actually coming out in large numbers. But it's not that it was not there. But these kind of drug abuse and family issues and relationship issues, all these things are adding to it. And we are going to have a very bad future in the coming days, because the things are going out of our hand, because our kids are in danger, and we have crossed a level. We may not be able to manage these things in a better way in the coming days. Things have been changing beyond our imagination, because all the things which is happening in metros are happening in our Thrissur also.
If it's so, why you are not recommending the government to start a prostitution center in every state's capital or district capital?
See, we are now.
Because if you are about the sexual starvation, so why you are associated? Why you are that IAP can't recommend the government to go for the prostitution centers like Red Light in Bombay?
I don't think any institutions, doctors' institutions, organizations can recommend that right now, because see, that is a political decision. So, അത് ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ മുമ്പ് നമ്മുടെ തന്നെ ഒരു സിനിമയിൽ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ കള്ളന്മാർക്ക് കക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി രാത്രി എല്ലാവരും പാല് തുറന്നിടുന്നു പറയുന്ന പോലെ കമന്റ് ആണ് വരിക. So it's a little bit difficult. That is a political decision. It is there. It is there in some of the places, very well accepted and legally done.
But so, victims are innocent kids. Victims are innocent kids.
There are a lot of pedophiles. There are a lot of pedophile people in our community. It's not in the Western society. There are a lot of pedophiles in our society. There are a lot of kids getting harassed in the buses, schools, and everywhere. So
there is a village prostitutes now. Village prostitutes shortage is there. It's one reason.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any more questions? If no more questions, I will hand over to Dr. Pawan for the further proceedings of the meeting. Thank you. Thank you for the active participation to all members.
In between, I have forgot to express one thing. Dr. Haroon was my junior in my medical college. We studied together in Sri Krishna Medical College in Southport in the early 70s. And we were still in good touch, and he is my degree based also. That word I forgot to mention. Thank you. Now, over to you, Pawan, for your report.
Yes. Thank you. So let us close today's general body meeting and the scientific session. A big thanks to Dr. Haroon and Dr. Sam for conducting today's EME. It was a very wonderful session. We had a lot of participants. As you all know, because of a huge number of Zoom meetings, nobody is participating. In fact, in most of the meetings, even for the previous general body meetings, hardly 40 to 50 people were participating. But today we had a good number of participation just because of the speakers. Dr. Haroon is a very famous speaker. He is a person who reacts in most of the social issues through the social media and other medias. So thank you, Dr. Haroon, for joining us today's CME session and making it a very eventful one. Thank you. And extending my thanks to the chair, Dr. Sam, for chairing today's session and also participating and adding his points in the discussion which happened. And also thanking our President, Joint Secretary,